Oh, namaskar. It's 12:10 a.m. um on today's Friday. Friday the I think it's the 29th or the 30th I think of September 2022. And I'm up, I was looking at the news there about how so many young women are dying, giving their life. People are fighting, protesting against law and authority in Iran. People want to discard the headdress, traditional headdress. And not only in Iran they're fighting, but in India, Kerala, they're in Europe and different parts of the world. The Muslims, they want to change, This is a new age, a modern age. And changes come, evolution come, even in Hinduism, new gurus. They come, they change the rules, they change the laws, and so on. Now, maybe this is a disadvantage of being a religious state where a person has to live their religious life 24/7, 24 hours. Every day they have to follow the codes and the system of that society in which they live. We are living in the Western zone, so we dress with Western clothes, we have Western clothes. We don't wear turbans, we don't wear malas, beads around our neck. In fact, India itself is a secular society. Not long ago when they had Dharma Raja, or the kings who rule India at that time, like Raja Janak, and these men, they had system where people voluntarily and with ease and happiness, they follow the social injunctions in a spiritual monarchy. So what we find happening is a rebellion for the secular state. Some of the people in the country, they want to go light on the Islamic laws and the Islamic rules. So maybe I think they're asking that people get freedom in that to choose whether they want to or not to follow the traditional system of strict religious injunctions. Now, religious injunctions, they are usually given by the prophet of that time when they came, for the people where they can able to control their vrittis, what is known in India in yoga system, vrittis, or their inherent tendencies. These things help to curtail and protect from astrological effect, social effect, from anti-human, anti-religious sentiments, culture, and so on. So the prophet show you the way. He tell you do this, do that, do that. So we find that people, by doing what they like and what they not like, they kind of form their own cult, their own deviation from mainstream religion. For example, in yoga system, we have to fast 4 times a month. We have to meditate. Monks meditate 4 times a day. Whole family people twice, morning and afternoon. We have to follow rules and laws that I can't discuss publicly like this. But I don't feel bounded to those rules and laws. I don't feel like I'm enslaved. It should be voluntary. If you really want God and you really love God, you shouldn't feel that you've become enslaved to religion, or it's a kind of ritual or something that you have to do. So maybe in this way, we have in society, there are always the people who cannot do and those who can do, right? But what happens is that as you migrate and go to different parts of the world, complications arise. Society influence you, peer pressure, your neighbors, your friend, your social workplace, public places. So you don't need to follow the laws of your homeland, because it is not the homeland scenario there. You don't have the supporting culture or the supporting traditions, way of life and habits and so on. So you can more free up. People who are living outside, they free up on Hinduism, the laws, the rules. In Judaism, the Jewish culture might have to compromise. They compromise a lot because nobody's watching them. And when there's no, what we should say, controlling force. You can do what you like. There's a nature of the mind that when you're not being watched, when you do what you like, you're free, you know. But for those who are more serious and more dedicated, you know, they would carry or try to carry the rules of the enlightened master of the sect, religious sect or the tradition they come from. We know Ramakrishna Paramahansa, when he was practicing Islam, his teacher told him, forget Hinduism, forget Christianity, follow these rules and do what the Muslim do. And he had the experience of the highest Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So when you want the experience, you have to do what the elders, the teachers, and the leaders tell you. And this causes the ignorance or the problem in society because you feel that you're an adult, you should have a free will. God give you a free will. God give Adam and Eve free will. They ate apple and they got knowledge. So now little knowledge can be a very dangerous thing if it's secular knowledge, you know. Spiritual knowledge is the best knowledge. And in this modern time, the Hindus say it's called Yogira, in which the people naturally, the attention or their essence, their being moves in an outward fashion. So outward techniques and methodology have to be devised to control and harness those extrovertive forces that are moving externally from the human system. So as I said, different places, different laws, different strokes, different rules, you know. But if you live in a mainstream community, the heart of a particular religion, it will be very more strict and more severe. And if you maybe want to change things, you can be affecting the mainstream religion itself. You know, you could be affecting God's work he has to do on earth for that particular religion, right? Not that I'm criticizing people, but having free will and doing as you like is not always the best if you're not very advanced in the spiritual path, you know. Methodologies are there to solve its purpose, and when the purpose is solved, you don't need methods anymore. It's like a thorn. A thorn is stuck in your flesh. You take another thorn, you dig out or remove that thorn, and then you throw both thorns away. You don't need them anymore. So even in the like many yoga system, they have the monks, the nuns, they wear head covering, scarves. It's a rule. If you don't want to follow it, you leave the organization, you get married. But you weren't respected as a spiritual status that you had before. You're a thought, you cannot teach people, you cannot enjoy the same privilege and power of spirituality. Now, freedom means many things. If you're celibate, you cannot say you'll be free by becoming libertine, you know, by going out and being free. And liberalism, you know, it is not really freedom. Real freedom is freedom internally from the bondages and power of the internal emotions and mind, your self-will, you know. You have to allow the will of God to flow through you, then you will rise above body conscious of cloth and dress and rules and regulation. You have to go above body conscious, become soul conscious. Stop feeling the body. You're not brown, you will not white, you're not green, you're not yellow, you know, you're not Indian, you're not Iranian, you're not Negro, you're not white. All of that are transcendental, meaning they can be, we could say they can be foregone. You can leave them, you can, you know, transcend those kind of feelings in higher spiritual state, higher state of existence, you know. So as I say, people in those areas where religion originated, and those hardcore origin of mainstream religion like Hinduism, Christianity or Islam, there are certain places in the world where prophets and saints manifested, so the rules and regulation might be more strict there, and to change that may cause conflict between the orthodox and the unorthodox. Like even in India, the influence was very strong in countries like Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Vietnam, in Myanmar, in Burma, in Tibet. But now what as civilization comes and different parts of the world produce different genius and uniqueness, you are trying to change your originality, your uniqueness, your peculiarity, but other people's, their evolutionary march might be different than your evolutionary march, than your journey, you know. So each of us, what we can do, we can share what we acquire, what we have, but you cannot cry over where you're born into and where you're living and what God has given you. You have to be satisfied. You know, I'm born in Guyana. We don't have many facilities like we have in America or England. Our educational system is not so great. Our scientific development now not so great. We pass through many problems with race, with poverty, educational crisis, human social problems. But those are, we are now going on to a new era in which we're forsaking those pet issue and we're moving into a more wider, expansive stance, you know. So rather than fighting down the old leaders, they had their time. We have to embrace change, but remember, we're not living in England, we're not living in America, we're not living in Australia, New Zealand, we're Guyanese, we're Caribbean people. So some of our originality will remain as we borrow and take things from around the world, whether it's cultural, whether it's scientific, whether it's ethno-linguistic or ethno-cultural aspects. We have a way of blending and utilizing those things. That's why they say India, for example, is able to absorb many culture and yet retain its originality. So the problem with hijab and so, right, it comes down to being a secular state, that you can either live the religious life or choose not to. All right. So all in all, I think when these people want to forego the Islamic rules and Islamic laws, it will bring them down to we should say kind of bridge the potential difference between secular and religious state. So we have some elements from the secular state will move and flow via the potential gradient, and people will be normalized like everywhere else in the world. So we have a globalization, a world, a huge global village, rather than separate individual cultural identities and entities and so on. So let's not blame the religious leader, let's not blame people who are trying to retain the essence of things and cultural uniqueness. Every part of the world, people are different. We see the Chinese culture, they are different, but they are also changing. They're opening to the West, they're trying to bring what is good in the West in their country. And at the same time, they cannot get rid of their originality, their Chineseness. They cannot, some of it will remain. Their food, their cooking style, their exercise, and certain aspects are being used all around the world, and that will make them proud, that give them acceptance. People love them in that area. So they will retain those qualities and those ingredients of the culture. While in Islam, the people have developed a very bad name for themselves due to extremism and so on. So it's very hard for them to accept themselves and to accept things that they would label as religious injunction or religious necessities, right? Their path or their direction is different from Hinduism, is maybe different from Christianity. So they have to follow the peculiarity and injunction as preserved and kept by the traditional tenets and scriptural scribes and recorders and documenters of the faith. So I'm sad to see what's happening all over the world, that people want to condemn themselves, rebuild their new identity, give themselves a new identity, you know. But we are all beautiful in our own selves, but only thing, we have to see it, we have to be conscious. And we are the most beautiful beings. We are part of Mother Nature, and nature is the greatest technology. People are still discovering nature. They're still finding out how it works, the variation, the mutations, the variegations, and so much extensibility of nature sparkling everywhere, out everywhere, the endless infinite cosmos. So there's so much to learn and so much to know, and it's all a beautiful experience of learning and being scientific minded. You know, it's good that we can inquire and we investigate the external phenomena, but at the same time we should keep our feet on the ground and know who we are, what we are, and this gives us balance, this gives us identity, this gives us courage and all the positive thing that needs to live the human life. It's so sad to see people are fighting against these cultural norms. What the Christians are protesting against, what the Hindus are protesting against, not to kill beef, not to kill the cow. What the Christians are protesting against, we have, for example, the Christian, they protest against the movie Temptation of Christ, when Jesus is depicted in degradable reveries and degradable programs. They criticize, they picket, they demonstrate. So all these things are common in religion. People may picket and demonstrate when their religion is attacked, when they feel themselves being attacked or degraded, and so they try to protect and upgrade